Hello and welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, powered as always by Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, our friends at Harper's Tree and Stump Removal have you covered. They can also haul rock or sand. They can do driveway work and can now do horizontal grinding of large wood debris piles. Give Keith a call at 229-314-2048. or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is proud to be the premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
Hello, and thank you for making the Integrity Sports Podcast a part of your weekly routine. If you are watching today on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, any of those other social media platforms, make sure and like this video and share it with your friends. A while back, I did an episode with my brother, Steve Estes, former quarterback at Americus High School, along with one of his teammates, Marcus Johnson. After that show, several times people would come up and say, "Hey, we saw the show with Steve and Marcus. Where is your brother Jay? What's he doing?" So today, I am glad to have my brother Jay, former center at Americus High School, with me. Jay, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks, Tim. It's great to be here. I love your show. Excited to be a part of it.
Jay, I want to start out kind of talking about your memories growing up, being a student athlete here in Americus at Americus High. Just quickly kind of run through off the top of your head, what are some of your best memories from back in the day?
Oh, wow. I think the thing that stands out the most, Tim, is just the sense of belonging that you got from being part of Americus High School. Coming from a small town, that was something that we could all kind of coalesce around. There was a sense of pride that was instilled in you, and you developed this sense of family. I think back to games that we played and the bad times when there were fights after those games.
Yeah.
Those things happen. They're never good, but what a blessing it is to look over and know that brother's got your back. That's there.
Yeah.
And so that's some of the fondest memories I actually have, is knowing, hey, there's somebody that's here for me and with me, that, I don't know that you see a lot today, but man, it was certainly instilled in us growing up there. So it's pretty awesome.
And Jay, you got to play for some legendary coaches, some folks that still today, 30 years later, are icons. People like Alton Shell, who was your head coach. Of course, Doug Parrish, who well in his 80s now. I think everybody in Americus is still afraid, or at least intimidated, by Doug Parrish. Carl Willis, who we had on this show not long ago. Carl Willis, I know you and him were close, but when you look back at those coaches, those administrators that were a part of your life, tell me what it was like to be under guys like that, and what kind of real impact did they make on your life?
Well, first off, with Coach Shell and Coach Parrish, you knew that you were in the presence of legends. That was part of it. So there was this automatic respect that was there. With Coach Shell was hilarious.
Yeah.
Coach Shell was a small, diminutive guy, but he still carried with him a presence in the room when he came in. He was so funny. And I guess his sense of humor and my sense of humor kind of meshed a lot. So we'd watch game film after the game, and Coach Shell would make a game out of winding the film back and showing funny things that happened in there. And oftentimes that would be me, right? I'm a center. I make a block, and then I stand around like a dodo and don't chase the play down.
Yeah.
He says, "Wind that on back, coach. Wind that on back. Look at Jay over there. Estes, what are you looking for?"
Yeah.
And the whole team would laugh about it and whatnot. But you learn through those things too. You learn to follow through, and so it was not an embarrassment. He wasn't trying to embarrass you, but he was teaching you in a way that you could receive. But it wasn't just Coach Shell and Coach Parrish. Coach Willis. I love Coach Willis, and he had a profound impact on me. He was my offensive line coach, and I didn't play football in middle school. So coming in to play football as a freshman, I was just a fat kid and needed to do something, right? So
yeah.
I get there. I wasn't the biggest. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. And I wasn't very good,
Yeah.
But Coach Willis pulled me aside and he said, "You're not the biggest. You're certainly not the fastest. You might be the slowest, and you're not the strongest, but you might be the smartest. And if you'll listen to me, I'll make you good." And he, instead of beating me down and making me feel bad about where I was, he showed me a path to get to a better place, and so I really valued him because he didn't break me. He built me. And I would say that about the entire coaching staff. They built you. We may not have been great, but we were all better than we started. And that's the hallmark of a coach, right? They make you better.
And Jay, here we are some 30-something years later, and I talk to folks every week who kind of have that same story about Coach Willis, because he's still today coaching some young athletes. He just had that knack for building you up and at least making you think you were better than you may actually be.
Right. Absolutely. He gave you confidence. It was all of them. He found a way to give you confidence. I can think of several key games where Coach Willis would pull me aside and say, "Hey, you're going to get beat by this guy that you're facing today, and this is how you need to go into that game prepared for that to make the best out of that situation." And so he just always had the other person's best in mind. How could I come out of that game giving my best performance for that team, not giving up and getting frustrated when I was going to get frustrated. I'm 220 pounds, 6 foot, and I'm facing a nose guard that's 6'5", 300.
Hey, I got a question for you. Do you remember the name Bucky Bedingfield?
Oh, my word. But I talked to Bucky Bedingfield not long ago.
Really?
I did. So that's a good story with Coach Lee. And I know
we'll talk about Coach Lee in a little bit, but give me your
story about Bucky for when you get to that.
Okay. All right. We'll do that.
Good story about Bucky for that.
This is going to be a lot of fun. Hey, we are talking to my brother, former center at Americus High School, Tim Estes. Today's program is also brought to you by our friend Marty McDonald at Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance. They're located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard here in Americus. You can reach them by phone at 229-928-3686. You can also find them on Facebook. Drop by and see Marty, Mary Lynn, or any of their staff and let them discuss your insurance needs. They can even do the famous discount double check to ensure that you're receiving all of the savings that are available to you. Thanks to Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance for sponsoring this segment of the Integrity Sports Podcast. And as always, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Okay, Jay, you mentioned Coach Lee, and I definitely want to get into this. The Americus community lost a legend this week in Coach Keith Lee. You, I guess, originally knew Keith from the days at Staley. He was also part of the coaching staff at Americus High School. You played with his son, Eric, if I'm not mistaken. So tell me a little bit about what you remember about Coach Keith Lee and his family.
First and foremost, Coach Lee was an imposing character, deep, strong bass voice, and just really had a presence about him. But I was really good friends with Eric Lee and with Greg Davis. So,
yeah.
And that was the real dichotomy. One of the awesome things about Americus High School is that you had athletics and you had academics and you had band and you had the show choir that were all, and everybody participated in multiple things. And so everybody kind of got together, and Coach Lee kind of crossed that barrier, right? So you had Eric, who was one of my best friends on the team, right? On the football team. And you had Greg Davis, that I competed in academic decathlons with, right?
Yeah.
That blend, that the true student athlete was possible there. What I remember about Coach Lee that really stands out is that Bucky Bedingfield story. We were playing Jackson High School, and Bucky Bedingfield was being recruited by all the big boys. He had offers from Georgia. He had offers, I think, from Florida. He went to Auburn.
Yeah.
And so he played both sides of the ball. He played offense and defense, primarily offense. But when he went on the defense, he was the stuffer. They'd put him in at center at nose guard, and he'd stuff it all up, and you couldn't run on. And going into that game, I didn't have a lot of interaction in the games with Coach Lee normally, but Coach Lee pulled me aside and he grabbed me by the face mask and he said, "Bucky Bedingfield, he is going to beat you, but you need to set an expectation for him. So the first play that he's in there against you, you're going to get as low as you possibly can, and you're going to hit him, punch up him. And if you're hitting him in the solar plexus, you're going to knock the breath out of him. You may not because he's big, but you're going to give it your best shot. And you're going to do that every play that he's there. And I don't care if he makes the tackle. Your job is to set an expectation that you're going to deliver pain to him." Right?
Yeah.
And so I was scared. I'm not going to, this guy is imposing. He's not just big and tall. He is strong. And the very first play I tried, but he pancaked me. He pancaked me to the floor. And I go back to the huddle and I say, "Steve, you can give up trying to come up my hole. It's over. I can't do anything with this guy." But over the next 2 or 3 plays, I kept doing it. I go down, wham, and I'd hit him. And I'd hear him every once in a while. I was making some strides. It wasn't until the next drive that we had another play that was coming right over my right hip. And I got down low and I hit, and probably hit a little lower than I was supposed to. I'm pretty sure I got him in the cojones.
Yeah.
Hurt him. But hey, he stuffed up the hole. We only made about 2 yards. But in the meantime, I'm laying on top of him with my elbow probably where it shouldn't be. And he's screaming. He's in pain. He's hurting. And my face is right next to his face mask. And I said, "Hey, Bucky, my name's J. Estes. Get to know me."
Yep.
And he came out. After that play, he never came back in on the defensive side of the ball the rest of the night. But what I remember is going back to the sidelines and Coach Lee grabbing my face mask again, saying, "You did it, son. You did it. You did it. You did it."
Yep.
I've never felt so good in my entire life.
Yeah, those kind of coaches really build you up, and Coach Keith Lee certainly will be missed, not just in the Americus area, but by all that knew him. Jay, I don't want to go too deep into this, but you mentioned you went back to the huddle and talked to Steve. Had to be a lot of fun to play with your brother. You're the center, he's the quarterback, and you got a couple of years of that in at Americus High. That's unique, but that had to be a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, growing up with a brother that's only 1 school year ahead of you, he's not just my brother, he's my best friend, and he's my quarterback, and I'm the center. You know, I think we had one mishandling between us in the 2 years that we were together under center. We had a connection. We just knew if I needed to deliver it further back, I could deliver it further back. It just you knew each other. You could feel each other in the tone of the voice that was there. And remembering the joy that we could express together when something worked the way it was supposed to work. You know, that was, I wouldn't trade that for anything. It was just, I had that special connection with Steve. He's my brother, but you had connections like that with everybody on the team.
Yeah.
It crosses racial boundaries, that it crosses all of the socioeconomic boundaries that are there. You're all brothers out there. It's just really, man, I haven't thought about that as much as I should have lately, but wow, what a great time. Yeah.
Jay, when I look back on our times growing up here, we grew up around the Lake Collins area. We had a lot of friends over there. We'd fish in the summers pretty much every day. We'd go down to the spillway. We'd ride bikes before we could drive, and then after we got our license, could go in the car. Our parents made sure we were going to be in church every Sunday, every Wednesday, but it was a good childhood. I'd be interested to know, who are some of those people that, when you think back, that were your friends that you made growing up here in Americus, that made it so much fun? Do you still keep in contact with any of those folks? Talk some about that.
Yeah. Well, first of all of the friends around the Lake Collins area, and that, a lot like football, that crossed a lot of age limitations and whatnot. I think of Stephen Pinnell, who's your age, 3 or 4, 5 years older than me. You played with him every day. His brother Lee Pinnell. You had Philip Exley over in there. All the guys around.
What about Joel McKelvey?
Joel McKelvey.
Yeah.
The silver bullet. I love Joel. I do keep up with Joel a little bit. Basically, my only connection is Facebook. So I really appreciate having Facebook, being able to let me keep up with a lot of those folks. But outside of Lake Collins, you had T. Gatewood and you had Will Rogers that I was really, really close with. And we would spend the night together and have good times going around the neighborhoods doing things we probably shouldn't do. But, it was a different time there. And I really, really appreciated the friendships that you could have there and just have good, clean fun. And everybody had to know everybody. When you graduate with a class of 200 people or less, everybody.
Hey, I tell you, 2 other guys that have asked me about you, Tony Morgan and Clint Morgan. Clint,
neighbors.
Yeah, Clint Morgan is now the athletic executive for the GIAA, the private school organization, but I still get to see him a lot. And he was one of those guys that said, "Hey, I saw this on Steve. What about Jay?"
Yeah, I keep up with Clint on Facebook. So I'm a Facebook stalker, I guess, on that. I don't comment very much there, but I pay attention to it. The folks that are there, Chuck Cheek, I shouldn't go without mentioning Chuck Cheek. Chuck Cheek was, because I was so close with Steve, a lot of my friends were really in Steve's grade. And I was really close with them. And I had a friend group when I first came to high school because they were his friends. And that probably frustrated Steve a little bit, but it really set me up as not a person that naturally made a whole bunch of friends. I had a core group to go with there. But man, I just remember with joy my time being there. And I can look at people on Facebook and see what they're doing and have real joy for the good things that are going on in their life, because I still feel that connection.
Yeah, and the guy that I think was your best friend back then, a guy named Chris Ryan, I still kind of work with him loosely through his organization. But do you still keep in touch with Chris?
I do keep up with Chris. Chris has a special place in my heart. Chris went with me for a semester up to Mississippi State. Lived with me for a semester up there while we did that. Great guy. Just love Chris Ryan. So great family.
We are talking to Jay Estes. One of our other sponsors is One Digital Solutions. They are a steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial, and HR platforms provide you with a personalized, tech-enabled solution for a contemporary work-life experience. One Digital resolves real problems for your business and for your employees. They do that by fusing together customized solutions that address things like employee benefits, HR, and financial services. It's really everything all in one. It's One Digital. Contact our friend Will Peterson. His number is 229-347-6955. 6289. One Digital is a proud sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. Jay, we've talked a little bit about athletics. I want to get more into kind of the life thing. You went on to complete an undergrad degree in chemical engineering over at Mississippi State. You then furthered that with a master's in business administration. As you look back at the education that you received at Americus High School, do you feel like it prepared you for college? And I want you to talk some about the education part of your high school days, maybe some of the teachers that you had here at Americus High.
Yeah, the education that I received was absolutely top notch. When I went off to college, my first year of college, I thought was a joke. I was like, it's supposed to be more than this. I was so prepared when I went in there. To me, it was like I was in a remedial class when I would go into class. Now things got harder as I progressed on up there, but there is absolutely zero doubt that I went into college absolutely prepared to go into college. I think one of the great things that Americus High was able to do was to reach people at the level that they were, not just on the athletic field, but in the academic world, and make them better. So I had friends that struggled, that were in special ed, that came up through that and have made great careers in their life from being prepared from that. So, there really is kudos that are deserved to them for reaching all the different types of people that are there. But certainly the quality of education that you could receive was as much as you were willing to take from it. So the opportunities were absolutely there. I had Carol Johansson teaching me math. As an engineer, math's a critical part of what I have to learn. And
she still reaches out to me on Facebook every now and then. Yeah. So I know she'll watch this program and appreciate that.
Well, Miss Johansson had me absolutely prepared for calculus. When I was in class, that's one of the things that stood out to me is I knew what I was doing,
Yeah.
I may have to get a little push or tug here and there, but I understood. It wasn't just that I had done the work. I understood the work, and Miss Johansson did that. And on the science front, there is no one better in this world than David Chapman.
Yeah.
David Chapman is a phenomenal human being, a phenomenal teacher, a mentor, and just what a great man of God. I just really appreciate Mr. Chapman, and he prepared me on the science side. And shout out to him. I know he's still out there in the area, and love him.
I tell you somebody else that asked about you, and it's literally every time they see me. I don't think this was from Americus High. I think it was from all the way back at Sarah Cobb, and that's Miss Reese.
Miss Reese?
Yes.
Oh, Miss Reese is the single individual that convinced me that I could be better. All the way back in fifth grade, I remember I moved over to the public schools in the fifth grade, and my sense of self-worth was probably in the toilet at that point in time. And Miss Reese pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you are different, but you are different in a good way. You are smart. You pick up on things that are going around. You are going to be one of the best students I've ever had." That was first week. I wasn't day one, but it was the first week that I was there. And I was scared. I was scared. I'd been private school my whole life, and now I'm in this multicultural smorgasbord of people right there. I didn't know where I fit in. And so her reaching out really set the stage for me. I love her. I
really hope that she'll see this program, and I'll make sure that I get with some folks so that she does see it. But Miss Reese, every time I see her in town, she says, "How's Jay?" So she remembers you.
She should never doubt the impact that she's had on my life. Transformative.
Jay, I understand that you're going to start a new position here with a new company in just a few days. Tell everybody where you're at now and kind of what you're going to be doing.
All right. Well, I'm living in Ackworth, Georgia, and the company I'm going to be working for is in Marietta, Georgia, and it's Artisan Custom Closets. So we are kind of like a custom IKEA, if you will. So people can come into your home and measure out your closet space and design a custom storage solution for you. And we'll draw it up on a computer, cut it out with all our fancy machines, flat pack it like IKEA does, and ship it back to you. And we even have installers that'll install it in your closet for you. So it's really neat process. I'm looking forward to starting it and growing it, looking to really grow that business. Right now, we're North Georgia, up into Southeast Tennessee. Over the next couple of years, we hope to grow down past Macon and maybe down into Southwest Georgia.
So if you're ever in the Ackworth, Georgia area, make sure and look Jay up. Jay, one of the things that people really like about our show is the wrap-up portion. So we're getting to the end of this thing. We ask all of our guests to tell us about your family or your friends or a combination of the both that encourage you behind the scenes. Who are those folks that for you are the wind beneath your wings?
Oh, wow. I've got a great family here. My wife, April, I've been married to for 28 years, 28 glorious years. I got 4 kids with her. I got 2 grown girls, Savannah and Alyssa. One of them is in college and the other one is trying their hand at real estate. I got a 16-year-old son, Jace, who's dead set right now on being a preacher, which makes me proud in my heart. And my little baby girl, Lacey, who's 13, and she's just LIVIN, she's having a good time. So they really do hold me up, and appreciate them and love them. Got a great church family here, and really ready for life to move on because it's in a good place. Right.
Well, that's awesome. And let me encourage folks, if you're on the TikTok platform, Jay's daughter, Alyssa, is phenomenal on TikTok. So make sure and go and follow her. She's in real estate and she does some really good stuff on there. Yeah. We certainly want to thank Jay Estes for being our guest today. I hope that many of your old friends, Jay, will reach out to you after watching this. Hey, tell people how they can connect with you. I know you're on Facebook. Don't know if you're on any other social media, but kind of tell folks how they can get in touch with you.
Hey, look me up on Facebook. That's where I reside to be able to get back to you. I'd love for people out there to connect with me. So just look me up on Facebook.
All right. And again, we want to thank you, our viewers, for making the Integrity Sports Podcast a part of your weekly routine. We are now into that 2,000 view average. So thank you. This program is growing. Again, we want you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Really, really important that we get to that 1,000 subscriber mark. And we hope to do that really soon. If you're watching on any other platform, like this video and share it. That's how we get our views up. But again, we air every Thursday night at 7:15 on all those platforms, and we hope you'll let your friends know about that. For my brother and my friend, Jay Estes, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching. So long, everyone.